Thanks, Kara. I will now call the hearing to order. I would like to begin by acknowledging that we are in Treaty 1 territory and the traditional homeland of the Métis Nation. This morning, our panel is represented by Mr. McIntyre on my far left, Mr. Terrian on my direct left, and my name is Mr. Hutchings. I will be chairing the hearing today. The assessor representing the Assessment and Taxation Department is Mr. Brown, and our secretary today is Ms. Balshaw. Right?
Yes. Oh.
Yeah.
Yeah. You do need that.
That's okay. We will be hearing applications for revision of the assessment roll in accordance with the Municipal Assessment Act. The matters for which revision is requested have been described in each application, and we will limit discussion to those matters. The statements that applicants or the assessor make at this hearing are sworn testimony, and anyone speaking to the matters must be sworn in. Be advised that comparisons of assessments of properties are not considered evidence of market value by this Board of Revision. The Board of Revision is appointed annually by Council and is independent of it and the City Administration. It makes its decisions on the basis of the evidence provided at this hearing and issues a written order that will be mailed to all parties as soon as possible. Please note that the Board's decisions with respect to an application may be appealed to the Manitoba Municipal Board if the matter pertains to assessed value or classification, or the Court of Queen's Bench if the matter pertains to the application of exemptions from taxation. Should you wish to appeal, information on how to do so will be included with the Board's order. With respect to the hearing process, I will confirm the matters to be addressed with each applicant following their swearing in. We will then have the assessor's testimony followed by cross-examination by the appellant and then the panel, and then the applicant's testimony followed by cross-examination by the assessor and then the panel. Again, each side will have an opportunity to summarize if they wish. Once all the evidence about an application has been brought forward, the applicant may leave. The process will repeat for each item on the docket today. The session will close after all the applications have been heard, and the Board will deliberate in private and make its decisions based on evidence presented here today. You will receive the order by registered mail as soon as possible. As information, all public hearings are recorded and will be part of the public record. Can everybody please make sure their cell phones are on complete silence? Would you swear in the parties, please, Karen?
Mr. Green, if you find the evidence of the debt today, the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth. Mr. Green, do you swear the evidence of the debt today, the truth, and the truth, and nothing but the truth?
Thank you, Kara. Good morning, Mr. Brown, Mr. Newman. Morning. First property on the docket is 186 Higgins Avenue, and we're dealing with a 2020 realty appeal, and we do have one issue. The assessor is requesting Boardroom proof for non-cooperation. Mr. Brown, would you go through that request, please?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman. So we turn right to page 2 of my evidence. At the top, we have our request for information. This property sold in 2012, so the first year was not returned due to that. We did not receive 2012. 2013 we did receive completed. 2014 we did not receive. 2015 we did receive complete. And then 2016 and 17 we did not receive. I'll note that we did receive the 2018 that was complete. That statement did contain the 2017 data. However, it was submitted a year late with the 2018 data. On page 3, you'll see I have the 2017 data. It's been grayed out just to indicate that we did receive it, but it was a year late. So I did put it in for the hearing.
Okay. Mr. Brown, would you mind reading out for the record the roll number and everything on this subject, please?
Roll number is 13091935-400, and the subject is located at 186 Higgins Avenue.
Thank you.
We can turn to page 14. This is the envelope, the certified mailer envelope. At the top right-hand corner in the red box, you can see the tracking number, LP 578626842CA. Below that, we can see the request for signature. Once again, the same tracking number ending in 842CA. This was not signed for. It was returned. Following page, this is the mailer that was sent out with the certified mailer. Once again, in the red box at the top left-hand corner, we can see that same tracking number. Following that is page 20. This was the 2015 and 14 data that we received, the last one that we received complete before the reference date. And then the following page, on page 22, this was the 2018 statement that we received that did contain the 2017 data, however, it was a year late. So based on that evidence, we ask that the non-cooperation be granted. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Brown. Mr. Newman?
Page 14 of your brief,
Yeah.
you indicated that's the registered mail that went out. So let's just, and I think the panel knows this, but let me just ask the question. The city typically sends out a request in early April. If a response is not received, it does a follow-up by registered mail sometime in early June. And you're indicating, I believe, to us that this is the follow-up request that was sent out.
That's correct.
And the city sends out the follow-up request in early June by registered mail because it wants evidence that the request was received, so it can then successfully try and seek the penalty as you're doing here this morning.
That's correct.
So, still looking at page 14, and the bottom half of the page, the second item from the bottom, 2018-06-26, 1143-17, the item was successfully returned to the sender.
Correct.
So this is telling us, I believe, that this registered mail was never received.
So my understanding is that when the registered mail is sent out, it's delivered to the recipient. If the recipient's not there to sign for it, they get a little card saying that it will be held at the post office for 7 days and that you have to go down and sign for it. If after the 7 days you don't sign for it, it is then returned to the sender.
But at the end of the day, this item was never received by the party to whom it was addressed.
That's correct. I know the police send out speeding ticket summons in the same manner. And if you don't go and sign for it, the speeding ticket still exists. It doesn't go away.
Well, we're not dealing with speeding tickets, but so bottom line is there's no evidence that this request was ever received, correct?
No, but there is evidence that it was sent.
Yes, I understand. Those are my questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Newman. Mr. McIntyre, any questions?
No, I have no questions.
Okay. Mr. Crane?
No, I have no questions either.
Okay, so Mr. Brown, so on page 15, a second request was sent out and the response was received, but it was the wrong year. Is that correct?
We actually received that response the following year on a subsequent request.
Oh, okay. 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 And the history of the, you said there was a sale that occurred on the property, sorry.
Correct, that's on page 2.
Page 2, that occurred in 2014?
The sale was in 2011.
11.
You can see just below the sale history, it was in November
Oh, yeah,
of
okay.
2011.
So this is the history, you're documenting the history of the response to the mailers over the 6-year period, I guess.
Correct.
Yeah, okay. So we've got 4 not received and 2 completed out of 6 years, okay. All right. That's my only questions. Mr. Newman?
I simply have a submission to make, and my submission is simply that the practice of this board, I would suggest, is that it requires evidence that the registered mail request was received. Clearly, in this case, there is no evidence that it was received. Indeed, the evidence is that it was never claimed. I have no idea whether this was sent to the correct address, but bottom line is there's no evidence that this was received. and on that basis, I would suggest that the penalty ought not to be imposed. Thank you.
Mr. Brown, any?
Just one question. You'll agree that the 2018 was received by us?
2018 information appears to have been received, yes.
Okay. And I can state under oath that that was the same mailing address. The mailing address is actually the owner's home address, having looked it up.
I think that was a question.
No, I don't think it was.
It's a bit of a statement.
I think it was a statement. I don't think
Okay.
he was, I think he was saying under oath, this is what I'm telling you.
Okay. Brent, any questions of the Mr. Newman?
No questions.
Maurice?
No, I have no questions.
And neither do I. Okay, we're going to consider the evidence presented by both parties. We're going to take a quick recess. Please. Thanks, Kara. I will now call the hearing back to order. Okay, the panel has considered both parties' evidence, and the panel will rule with the city's request for non-compliance on the non-receipt of income and expense statement. So that puts the burden of proof, Mr. Newman, on you, but I note that there's no evidence that has been presented.
We actually have an agreement on value.
Oh, okay,
I'll make a recommendation if that's...
okay.
So the city would like to recommend a revised value of $800,000.
Okay, and so let it work at 800,000. Mr. Newman is in agreement. Mr. Brown, would you mind just highlighting why the record made, please?
We revised the expenses. There was some stabilized figures that we adjusted.
Okay. So you're in agreement, Mr. Newman, at $800,000,
I am.
reflecting revised expenses in the calculation of income. Okay. Any questions, Mr. McIntyre?
No questions.
Mr. Tanya?
No, thank you.
Okay, and I have no questions either. Okay. I'll leave that one with us. Thank you.
If it can help the panel, 171 Demoulin, number 2, 1105 St. Mary, number 3. I'm going to request simply that they be confirmed. Number 4, 1022 Pembina, there's a recommendation on that as well, which I will be accepting.
Okay.
Just so the panel knows.
Okay, thank you. Thanks, Mr. Newman. Okay, 171 Dumoulin. For the record, please, Mr. Brown.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The roll number is 0606027900. Subjects located at 171 Demoulin Street. We are defending an assessed value for 2020 at $915,000. I'll keep this brief due to the request of Mr. Newman. You can see our income workup on page 3. There's some pictures starting on page 8. This is the St. Boniface Hotel. And that will be my submission. Thank you.
Would you mind stating the value, please?
$915,000.
Okay, thank you. Thank you. Mr. Newman, any questions of the assessor?
No.
I guess just comment. Okay, Mr. McIntyre, any questions?
No questions.
Mr. Tennant? Thank you. I have no questions either. Okay, Mr. Newman, when you're ready, please.
I'm prepared to have this value confirmed, so I have no further submission.
Okay, thank you. Panel members have any questions?
No questions.
Mr. Brown, you're good? Okay, thank you. Okay, that concludes 171 Dumoulin Street. Property on the docket is 1105 St. Mary's Road. Mr. Brown, when you're ready, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Roll number for the subject property is 08021003300. Subject's located at 1105 St. Mary's Road. This is the Econo Lodge Hotel, formerly known as the Dakota Motor Hotel. Defending a 2020 assessment of $10,899,000. Income approach workup on page 3. There's some pictures starting on page 8. Pictures go all the way to page 16. And then we have our income and expense information starting on page 22. And that's my submission, thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Newman, any questions of the assessor?
I have no questions.
Thank you. Maurice, any questions?
No, thank you.
Brent?
No questions.
I have no questions either. Mr. Newman, when you're ready, please.
We are prepared to have this value confirmed.
Thank you. So request for confirmation at $10,899,000. Mr. Brown, any questions?
No questions, thank you.
Panel members?
We're all silent this morning.
Thank you. It's a rare thing.
It's the weather.
Okay. And I have no questions, so that concludes 1105 St. Mary's Road with Mr. Newman's request for confirmation. Okay. Next property is 1022 Pembina Highway. Mr. Brown, when you are ready, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Roll number for the subject property is 030930022825. Subject's located at 1022 Pembina Highway. This is the Cambridge Hotel. The assessment in the roll for 2020 is $1,699,000. The department is going to make a recommendation today at $1,508,000.
Okay, based on
Revised expenses.
revised expenses, okay? Mr. Newman,
That is acceptable.
accept that recommendation at $1,508,000.
Correct.
Okay, thank you. Okay, any questions from the panel? Okay,
Thank you.
that concludes 1022 Pembina Highway, and I believe, Mr. Newman, you are done.
Good morning to all.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good timing.
It's nice to have agreement.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. Yeah, yeah.
One more.
What's your name? Will you state your name?
Sid Story.
So we're going to take that today's the truth, whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
Thank you.
Good morning, Mr. Story.
Good morning.
How are you?
Great, thank you.
Okay. Your first property is going to be 1030 McPhillips Street. And I note the assessor has a request for non-cooperation for non-compliance.
Yes.
Okay, Mr. Brown, when you are ready, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Roll number for the subject property is 14052135300. Property is located at 1030 McPhillips Street. This is formerly the Lincoln Hotel. It's now the Four Crowns Hotel. We turn right to page 2 of my evidence. Once again, this property sold. This property sold in 2013, which we can see on my request for information. This following year, we did receive information from the new owners, however, it was late. 2015 and 16, we did not receive information from the owners, and 2017, we did receive something, but it was incomplete, which I will show later in my evidence.
Mr. Chair, we're not contesting what you have.
Okay.
We're not contesting it.
Okay.
Okay. So, I don't think there's any reason for recess. Panel in agreement that will accept the, will accept the acceptance from non-compliance.
I agree.
Okay, so non-compliance is granted. And Mr. Story, it will be noted that there's been no evidence presented on your behalf.
No, it has not. We've got a settlement. We're accepting the recommendation from the department.
Oh, okay. Mr. Brown?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chairman. So the department's willing to reduce the 2020 assessment from $3,114,000 down to $2,966,000. Once again, this is based on revised expenses.
Okay. And Mr. Story, you're in agreement with that value of
Yes, I am, Mr.
$2,966,000?
Yes,
Okay.
thank you.
Any questions from the panel?
Thank you.
Okay. That concludes 1030 McPhillips Street. Carrie, you've got that? Thank you. Okay, the last property in the docket is 1611 Main Street, and just dealing with a 2020 realty assessment. Mr. Brown, when you are ready, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Roll number is 11-0000-84200. Subject's located at 1611 Main Street. This is the Greenbrier Inn. The city is willing to make a recommendation to reduce the 2020 assessment from $3,698,000 down to $3,414,000. And that's based on a revised cap rate.
Okay. Mr. Story?
Yes, we accept the
So
recommendation.
you're accepted, okay. That was $3,414,000.
Correct.
All right. Frank, do you have any questions?
No.
None, thank you.
Okay. no worries. I do have one, Mr. Brown. What is the revision in the cap rate?
1 point from 12 to 13.
From 12 to 13, okay. So your workup is on page 3?
Correct.
Okay, 12 to 13, okay. Okay. And that's revising the assessment for 2020 to $3,414,000 based on a revision of the cap rate, and Mr. Story is in agreement. Okay, that concludes 1611 Main Street. Thank you.
Thank you
Thanks,
very
Mr.
much.
Story. Thanks, Mr. Brown. That concludes our hearing.